Hi y'all, welcome to my channel. My name is Kirsten, and here at the Wooden Butterfly, we are all about the transformation. So today we're transforming a simple wood round like this one into a really cool faux marble pedestal stand using a paint pour process and some epoxy. If you checked out my video last week, you would have seen that I did some faux marbling on the top of a table. Well, that table was used in my display in my store, and it was no longer of purpose, so I disassembled it and created 3 different projects out of it. These wood rounds are from the top of that table. So this is a much more in-depth process than what I covered last week. It really goes in depth with using Dixie Belle Paint, chalk mineral paint products to paint pour with, so that you can paint pour on furniture, on home decor, on many other things, because I have a few of those projects coming up as well. So stay tuned and I'll give you a more in-depth tutorial on how to paint pour and create a faux stone or faux marble. We're going to paint pour on this wood round. These are wood rounds that you can get from your hardware store, or there are some places online, I'm not really sure. I've seen them, I haven't actually bought them from there. But anyhow, so last week we made over a display piece that was in my store. So since I already had those projects and we're starting from new, I bought a new wood round the same size as the other one that I did earlier, and basically I taped off the bottom so that I wouldn't get a whole bunch of paint on the bottom, because last time it was all over, and painting over that was just a mess. So I covered this up and we're ready to go. We want to take some blocks. We want to get them ready. So you want this to be able to run off, is the whole idea of raising them up. But you could use other cups, you could use paint jars, you could use whatever you've got just to raise this up. So I'll show you a few of the things that I have here ready to go. This is actually a candle holder. It's a nice turned piece, and we're going to paint it. We're going to fasten it underneath so that it stands like that, and it'll be a nice little stand. We'll get to that in a moment. That will be painted in Cactus. And the colors we're going to use some Dixie Belle's, the chalk mineral paint, in the Weeping Willow, the Putty, Fluff. Then we're going to throw in some black sands in the silk, because that's what I had on hand. Now if you had midnight sky in the chalk mineral paint, that's a similar color. It's not a stark black, because in stone you aren't going to see those extreme stark colors, and we're creating a faux marble, so just keep that in mind. So that I've got the black sands, and then I have some endless shorts. I was out of, this is close to a little bit lighter than drop cloth, but I like that the fluff and the drop cloth together to kind of make my base, because you've got those tone on tones going on. But I was out of my drop cloth, but I did have some endless shore on hand. So the silk paints, if you have them on hand, work fabulous for paint pouring. They're so smooth and so silky, and they flow really well. You just add a little bit more. You're going to add more of the gloss to it, and I'll explain that in a second. But basically you're going to mix these equal parts with Dixie Belle's gloss, the clear coat gloss. What that does is it allows the paint to flow. You can also use the product, any other pouring mediums, but I find this works just as well. It is actually a little better price effective. Basically, I took the gloss and I added it to this squirt bottle. These squirt bottles are great. You can get them on Amazon, or I think even Dollar Tree has some, ketchup and mustard bottles. Because I do a fair amount of paint pouring, I put it in this so that it's just easier to disperse into the cups and whatnot. But you don't have to. Let me back up one quick second. You're going to want to prep your area because it gets very messy, like very, very messy. So no matter how much I try to not be messy, it's still, you get it somewhere and you're like, ugh, this is terrible. So that's why I have actually one of those cheap, inexpensive gloss from Walmart, the vinyl ones underneath. And then on top of that, I have some trash bags. What I like about these trash bags is, one, you could take the skins after they dry. It's really cool, and do some fun things with them. But also you can just pick up this trash bag, fold it in, and then throw everything in the trash, and it's all gone. So you could also cut these if you have a bigger area. You can cut these open, lay them out. You could use visqueen or anything like that as well, or any of those. I guess you could even do like those Dollar Tree tablecloths that are really thin. That way you could just fold them up and throw it all out, because it, like I said, it gets messy. And then we have some gloves because, again, it gets messy. And then some popsicle sticks and some plastic cups. I have one for each color, and then one to mix, one to layer the colors in as well. This is a zebra brush that is going to be to paint that base of that, or paint that candle holder. So let's put the gloves on. Any type of, plastic gloves is fine. These are just ones that I have found quite inexpensively. And yeah. So what you're going to do, oh, one more thing, have some water on hand as well. Because some of the chalk mineral paints, as they've sat, they get a little bit thicker. So just keep some water at hand to thin it out just slightly. Start with, this is the Fluff. This is not a pure white, and I like that better. The cotton is a nice bright white, but the stone isn't bright white. So it's quite white, but it has, undertones of grays and browns and things of that nature. So that's why we're using those colors to kind of add in there and add those layers and textures. Yeah, this paint, I don't use putty that much, so it's a little thicker, but you're just gonna stir it up. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, now, if you stir and it doesn't get to a good consistency, it has gone bad. What makes it go bad is extreme heat or extreme cold. Store your paints appropriately. In a controlled environment is best. So I thought what putty would be good because it has somewhat of a green undertone, and that's kind of what we're going for. But you see how this one's kind of thick. We don't need a whole lot of it, thank goodness. And I'm adding some Weeping Willow because we're doing the green base. So I thought it would be kind of cool to add just a slight touch of green. Again, you don't need a whole lot. So now we're going to put the equal parts of the gloss in here. More. And then you're going to stir. And this is the part that kind of you eyeball, and with practice you start to see how it has a nice flow. So that's going to flow really nicely. The thing is, you really want the consistencies to be the same. If you have one, like I've done some with some metallic paint, it has a much thinner consistency. So if you don't mix them with the same consistency, you'll get some kind of cracking look to it. It kind of separates a little bit. But from what I've seen, it isn't just, yeah, there we go. That's thicker, but a good flow. Okay, so now we're going to put our base colors down. And what I like to do is just kind of swirl it around. No real rhyme or reason. And some of this. Kind of fill in there. Take that big popsicle stick, just kind of go like this. Just get that paint flowing really well. Again, no real rhyme or reason. Kind of making sure there aren't any flat and thin areas. We're not putting a whole lot of pressure with this popsicle stick. You're just moving that paint a little bit. You don't want to mix it up a whole lot either. We want it, you know, you want to still be able to see the lighter and darker colors. So then you're going to take your cup and then you'll start adding in your layers, and that will create those, some of those, what they call striations, or you know, the cracks and crevices and the layers of sediment and all of that get created in stone. It gives you those really cool effects. A little too much black in there, but we'll counteract it here. Okay, and so usually stone has kind of a movement. It has kind of a layer, you know, those layers go in one direction. They don't really kind of go all over it. There are some that crackle, but we're trying to just create. So we're just going to start pouring. Kind of go like this. They're not going to be exactly. And then you'll just grab it and start tipping it so that it starts coming out. See how it's got the nice layers, but we want them to be just slightly more muted. So I'm going to run my finger through here, just as I did on the table last week. Just kind of smooth those out a little bit. We want to leave some, but we want to, there you go. Blend those out just slightly. Just kind of keep moving it until you start to see it look the way you want, as well as we want it to cover everywhere. And that's why it starts to get quite messy. It's very mesmerizing to watch. I will sometimes watch paint pour videos, and my husband's always saying to me, why do you keep watching? You know how to do this already. Why do you keep watching these? I'm like, because it's just mesmerizing to see what happens. So I'm just rubbing my finger along all the edges to break any tension so that you don't have, get the divot points nicely. I'm still quite dark. Some of that, but not a lot. There, that's better. Another technique, see, isn't that really cool? You've seen stone that kind of does all that. Really cool. Another thing you can do is blow on it. See how it just opened that up? I'm liking that. And you're just going to stop when you like it. When it gets to the point that you think, yeah, that looks like stone. And pull it this way just a little bit because I'm going to there seemed to be more paint on this end than there was that one, so I'm just trying to get some of that over there without completely ruining my lines. Now, if you wanted, say, a little more green, or a little more tan, or a little more black, you certainly could add that in. Like right here, I think it's just a little, and I'm dripping on it. I think it's, I don't know, don't work with your hands, don't talk with your hands while you do it either. This is just a little too green, I'm thinking. So I actually might take some of the whiter white, kind of go across there with that. And then this has got more black in there up at the top, so we're going to go across there again. And it's just a little too straight as well. So let's try that. Blend it out. See what happens. Yeah, I'm liking that better. Except for that, that's a little too dark right there. The whole idea of paint pour is really to just let it flow. There, now it's not so straight. Like I said, rub your fingers around and make sure the paint's going to continue to keep falling. But we want to make sure we have it everything covered. What happens is as it dries, it kind of creates a resistance. I don't know, am I liking that? When I moved it, it kind of got really squiggly right there, and I'm not sure about that. We're gonna try it again. And this helps to also, adding more as you go kind of helps create those lines as well. Not lines, those layers. That's the words I'm looking for. So, run our finger through here. Just to blend those out. And then let them flow this way. One direction. You can use a straw as well. There you go. See, there it is. There we go. I think I'm liking it. Oh. It's a little more earthy than the ones I did before because they had more of a blue tone, but you see how messy it gets. But I like it. It's much warmer, and it'll go well with the green base. So we're going to just let that settle. And we're going to come ahead and we're going to go try to clean up a little. So what we're going to do now is prepare our surface. This is 220 grit sandpaper, sanding pad, and we're just smoothing out any of the edges, the grain of the end grain of the wood where they've cut the circle can sometimes be a little rougher than the other areas. Also, if there's any sort of clumps or things that may have fallen into the paint or any bumps, you're just going to smooth those out. So we're going to be using a pour-on resin today. And we're going to take part A and part B, and you're going to mix equal parts together. So I like to use a food scale. This is just a very inexpensive food scale. And we're going to be using 4 ounces. So I'm doing 2 ounces of each part. I like this scale because then I am sure that I'm getting the exact amount of each part. And so again, that was part A, and now we're going to do part B and mix the equal parts. Please note that as you can see, there is a slight coloring to this epoxy. There are other epoxies that are more clear so that you don't get any tinting of your piece if you want a more truer, clearer marble color. So then you're going to mix those together. And what I like to do is put it into part A into part B, mix it together, and then go ahead and pour it into a clean cup, because if there's any medium that sticks to the side of that cup, it could cause pockets of epoxy where it doesn't fully set and it causes soft spots in your epoxy, and you definitely do not want those. And there's a long dry time on this, so you might as well take the time and mix it up properly, because it's a lot easier to fix now than it is later. I'm just using that popsicle stick to go ahead and thoroughly mix this all up. And then you're just going to take that cup and pour it on to the surface. I try to get some towards the edges so that it isn't as much that I have to push around. Getting it all out of that cup. And then I take my popsicle stick again, and I'm going to start evening it out, kind of pushing from the inside out to make sure it blends over or rolls over the edges. And I highly recommend wearing gloves when you're doing this process. I was out of gloves, and you'll see in a minute, I actually put a baggie over my hand at one part of this process because I just didn't have gloves, and I needed to get this project done. So this is where I took the baggie and I put it over my hand, and I'm just leveling it all out, making sure it's covered everywhere. You can feel it better on your hand than you can with that popsicle stick. So you can see where it's thicker or thinner in spots, or you haven't gotten epoxy as well. Don't worry about ridges, because it finds its own level as it dries. Then I'm taking my heat gun and I'm just running it over the surface so that it brings all the bubbles up and pops them. You can use alcohol in a bottle as well. So what do you think? Isn't it beautiful? So now we're going to add the base. So I took a 1/4 inch piece of plywood and I cut it just larger than the candle holder. And we're going to attach that to the candle holder. I apologize, I somehow lost the footage for painting the candle holder, but that's 2 coats of the Dixie Belle Silk in the color Cactus. And then you're going to remove all of that tape, but as you can see, I should have done it a little earlier because it's really hard to take off. The epoxy had hardened the tape on there. But then we're just going to take some 120 grit sandpaper and we're going to sand it off with my battery powered orbital sander. We just want that surface to be nice and smooth to apply a coat of paint so that everything is finished underneath. So we're going to use 2 coats of the Dixie Belle Fluff. using my Dixie Belle mini brush. Now you're just going to center that candle holder onto that 1/4 inch piece of plywood, and we're going to screw it in. I used 2 screws, 2 wood screws, and just screwed it down. Now we're going to attach that to the top of the wood round. I'm using a pencil as a guide to make sure that I'm getting it exactly in the center. You obviously could use a ruler. Usually use what is at hand at the moment just to get the job done. I'm using 4 wood screws to screw this down. You want to make sure that they're long enough to grab the material, but not too long that they actually screw through the top. And then we are done. Probably going to touch up that. So what'd y'all think? Wasn't that fun? It is so fun to use this process, and you can create with different colors. You create a completely different feel. Putting it on different things creates a totally different feel. You can use it on glass, on ceramic, on wood, on the fronts of dressers, on all different types of home decor, on metal. The possibilities are endless. In the bottom of a tray, on the top of a tray, at the bottom of a bowl. I mean, really, the possibilities are truly endless. Around the holidays, you can make ornaments, and you can make all sorts of different holiday decor, which is a little hint for the video that's coming up next. So come on back next week, and I'll show you the fun projects that I have been working on recently.